What's going on, you monstrously marvellous Martins? Welcome to this week's episode of Total Pod Mode. My name is James, also known as Mr. Bames, and I'm joined as always by the wondrous Will, also known as Hoodafunk.
What's up, James? Good to be back for another week.
And nice to see you, man. How you been after all your tortures last week?
All good, man. As you can probably tell, I'm still away on holiday. I decided after Donny packed his bags and headed back to sunny England, I was going to stay behind and actually get the most out of this spa break, so I've decided to extend my holiday for just a couple more weeks.
I can't say I blame you, to be fair, man. You've been through a lot. You've had a lot done to you that probably isn't healthy for your body, so it makes sense to have a little bit of a spa break. And you'll be pleased to know Donny has already swung by the HQ. He's taken your blood, so I'm sorry about that.
Okay, sad to hear, but I'll get over it, I'm sure.
Exactly, it was expected. I got him in touch with Shaman Bro. I think they're working something out.
Right, okay.
Our hands seemingly are untied now. We're done.
Done for another year at least. Let's hope.
Don't give me hope.
But with that, let's talk about what's coming up on today's episode. So we've got our usual catch-up. We've got a bit of gaming news where we're going to be talking about a very ambitious claim.
Sounds very ambiguous, James.
It does. More on that later. We're also going to be talking about potentially more remakes for one of Will's favourite franchises. And also some new plans for a hit TV show. I know, gaming podcast talking about TV. What's going on?
Oh, it's a crossover episode.
And then we round off the episode with the gaming challenge, where this week it was my turn to tackle the challenge set by Will last week. But before we get into all that, let's hit them socials. You can, as always, find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere else you get your podcasts by searching for Total Pod Mode.
We also post regular video content of our playthroughs, stream highlights, as well as the podcast on our YouTube channel, Total Pod Mode.
You can also find us on X by searching for @TotalPodMode, all one word.
Or you can find me at Hoodafunk on X, and I'm also on Twitch under twitch.tv/Hoodafunk.
And you can find me on X at Mr. Bames, and I'm also on Twitch under twitch.tv/MrBames_TPM. So man, let's get it. What have you been playing this week?
So this week, much like last week, I've kind of failed to play very much video games at all, unfortunately. I've been kind of taking in the beautiful surroundings, enjoying the weather, and unfortunately not really packing much time into any video games. However, I do have a couple of things to talk about. First of all, one of the few video games that I have managed to nudge a little bit of time into is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, I was wondering when you were going to get back into that. It's been a minute.
It has. It's been a hot minute, pretty much since the first couple of weeks of release, really. I took quite a...
It's been half a year, that sort of minute. Yeah. Sort of 6 month minute.
That sort of 6 month minute, you know what those are like.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
So I jumped back into that, feeling my way very gingerly through the game, feeling quite unfamiliar with the game, despite the hours that I had previously put into Breath of the Wild, and the fact that they do play very similar. I'm kind of taking my baby steps through this, because I've started with a complete lack of equipment and everything that I was used to carrying in the original game. All my potions, all my elixirs, all out the window. So I need to go back and scavenge a lot more.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, that's how you played Breath of the Wild, right? You took it very slow. You were just all about the exploring, building up your resources, getting a collection of weapons, and then eventually you tackled the world.
100%.
And do you think you're going to play Tears of the Kingdom in the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to obviously make advantage of some of the Zonai devices that you get along the way, and the use of Link's new powers are coming in very handy. I've started to experiment a lot more with the Ascension ability, which allows you to travel up through the ground. So if you find yourself in an underground area, you can zip through the ceiling to actually get back to ground level. It's very useful, and it's a good way of finding your way into secret areas as well.
Nice to get out of places you get stuck in too, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. There was quite a few times early on where I'd fallen down a well and I couldn't figure out the way to get out, and obviously the game was expecting you to use the Ascend ability, but I was a little slow to cotton on in terms of just how useful that power is. But, with that finally lodged in my brain now, I'm really enjoying the slow plod through the game. I find this game really enjoyable and relaxing to play. I haven't really done a great deal other than just explore more of the map, and whenever I've landed into any real major roadblock, like a big boss or like an extreme condition environment, I've kind of ran the other way, really. Just trying to explore all of the places in the game that are easy to explore and stock up on items that I can use later on to get to some of those more harder to reach areas.
Makes sense. get your exploration in, but you don't want to keep dying.
No, exactly that. Yeah, I'm not really into this game to kind of fight a load of bosses and find it difficult. The exploration is really where this game stands out for me, and that's what I'm most keen to do. So yeah, getting a lay of the land is probably a pretty good description of what I've been up to this week with that game.
Fair play. Sounds like fun, man. And if it gives you as much joy as the last one did, then you're in for many hours of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that if I do manage to cram in any time over the next week into games, it's probably going to be more Tears of the Kingdom. Obviously, with the Games Challenge coming up, I'll have to balance that as well. But I think that Tears of the Kingdom will be the game that I keep going back to now at this point. However, there was one more game that I want to speak about, and it's not actually a game that I've played this week, but it's been something that I've been following for quite some time, and there's currently an ongoing open online beta for it. And I'm of course talking about The Finals, which is a competitive first-person shooter game set in a universe where people are having combat sports for entertainment. You play in a sort of a game show style type of setting, where you're usually pitted with 2 or more teams against each other, competing in team deathmatch, capture the objective style type gameplay. But the reason why this really stands out to me is that there is a lot of fluidity to the mobility and movement in the game. It has a very strong Apex flavour in that sense, which obviously has got me quite excited. And the other thing where this game really stands out is the fact that the environments are the most destructible, and this includes buildings, since Battlefield Bad Company 2. Which to me is like a massive milestone in terms of just how the building destruction worked in those games. Modern Battlefield games have kind of, it feels to me at least, taken a step back away from those. They did have Levolutions, but there was nothing in terms of quite the same precision and just cool visuals of seeing a building absolutely collapse.
Yeah, I remember when we played Battlefield 5 together a few years back, I wasn't that impressed with the destruction in it. Like, it was fine, like it was perfectly serviceable, but I remember being more impressed more back in the day, as you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of buildings in those games that you can destroy, but they're more kind of barns and things that you really would expect at this day and age, a Battlefield game, to be destructible. However, I felt like they did it a lot better in the past, and it looks like they do it really well in the finals. And I've actually gone on to read that there's some ex-DICE employees working for the company that actually is developing this game at the moment. The company I'm talking about is a Nexon subsidiary called Embark Studios, and it looks like they're putting out some really good stuff with some of their acquired talent in the game industry.
No, fair. It sounds very interesting. I must admit I wasn't even aware of that, so it does sound quite funky.
Yeah, and to kind of add to that funky feel, the combat has a whole class system, which is light, medium, and heavy. As you'd expect, the light class is a lot more agile, less health, the heavy class, more health, and less agile. But they all have various different abilities around that they can do as well. One of them seems to have kind of like a telekinesis ability, which seems really cool, and that could be used to pick up objects and launch them at other players to do damage. I've also seen it used to a really interesting effect where one of the classes is able to deploy sticky turrets to walls and surfaces. This includes objects in the game that you can pick up. So I've even seen examples of players picking up like a large mailbox or a dumpster, popping 2 turrets on it, and simultaneously using the dumpster bin for cover whilst the 2 turrets are firing at enemies whilst attached to the bin.
Nice. That's very The Division, that.
Yeah, some really cool ways to employ some of the mechanics in the game, you know, using player creativity. It looks really, really interesting to me. And I'm just gutted that at the moment I'm probably going to miss my opportunity to play this beta until I get back. I don't think that the PC I'm running off here quite has the hardware to cope with a game like that.
No, potentially not. But yeah, God, I'm quite intrigued. I might look at it. But I won't do the beta just to make you jealous.
Oh no, please do. I've actually been messaging Jem and Liam saying, please jump on this and see what you think. Let me know if it's any good. Because I'm obviously jealous at anyone that would have the opportunity to play it at the moment. But really keen to hear more about it as well, and hear more about it from people I know, because I am conscious that a lot of these games can kind of get lost in hype. I'd be really sad if this game ended up similar to Splitgate in the sense that it had a real kind of good launch and quite initial decent amount of popularity, but has since tailed off and it's getting more and more difficult to find games that aren't just bot lobbies. I would really hope that the finals is going to go on to be the next best thing or the next biggest thing, and based on some of the promo footage that I've seen and some of the fun things I've seen other players achieve, I see no reason why it couldn't do that.
Well, as I say, I'm going to have to check it out, because you've certainly sold it to me for at least being an interesting concept. I hope hope that the studio in question is going to see the vision through the way they want to, and that it is a great success.
Great success.
But that's pretty much me for this week, man. How about yourself?
I basically just continued with Baldur's Gate 3 this week in the limited game time I played. And as I sort of mentioned last week, I started again to be more evil, because I felt like I wasn't
More
being evil enough
evil?
in my evil.
Still
yeah.
not evil enough.
No, this was last week I said this.
Oh, you did say that. Like, okay, right. I thought you'd done it again.
No, God, no, I'm not that insane.
I gotta go deeper.
Actually, to be fair, I am that insane, but no, I didn't do that. I've just been playing with that character, so basically I haven't made any progress in the sense that I haven't got much further than I got before I started again.
Okay.
But I've just been having a whale of a time replaying the stuff, being more evil. So, and you have that comfort because you know what you need to do.
Right, yeah.
So I could just sort of crush through.
Positively make that purely evil decision rather than risking accidentally finding your way into...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Like, so there's a lot less resetting and things like that.
Good.
And, so many more people have died. It's quite insane, actually. Like,
what's your body count at this point?
It's hundreds.
It's in the hundreds.
Oh yeah, no, it really is. And like, I think in the sections I've been in, I think there's maybe one shopkeeper still alive because of decisions I've made.
God damn, you even killed the shopkeepers?
Well, there's reasons for that.
All right, okay.
Yeah, because it's not like I just go around randomly killing shopkeepers.
You have been selected for death.
No, they just happen to become hostile in certain scenarios, that's all.
Right.
I don't know. I might have picked a few of those fights, sure, but...
Are those scenarios involving you trying to rob their store by any chance?
Actually, no.
Not
a single one was that. No.
I had to kill him because he pulled a sword on me when I tried to take his prized stock.
It's not us playing GTA. No, it's not that. It's more like and the game's still new enough that I don't want to give spoilers here, right? But
right.
There's a certain choice you can make in the first act around a grove and who should be in charge of it.
Grove Street. Home. At least it was before I f***ed everything up.
With the choice I made, the shopkeeper of the grove, the default two shopkeepers in the grove both become hostile to me.
Right. Okay.
So it's things like that. I mean, sure, one of them I did start a fight with a whole town because I killed and robbed a gnome. Sure, that was a thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's to be expected. You are an evil guy.
But by the same handle, it was a bunch of mushroom people. I don't know if they're good or bad.
Nothing of value was lost.
Morally grey area.
Right, okay. They were mushroom people, guys. Move on.
But then in that town, the shopkeeper didn't become hostile because I think he was part of another quest, which led to me starting a fight with him because of the things that he did, said, and who he associated with.
Okay, right. Okay, you're remaining really kind of nebulous.
Well, yeah, because I don't want to give away, the spoilers. It's a main mission, isn't it? So
fine,
I didn't want to... Yeah. But yeah, it's been super fun. I'm having a great time role-playing it, and... I will definitely do a good playthrough as well because there's certain things that I want to do different. Because I know for a fact that there's just whole sections of the game that are just shut off to me now because of certain decisions I've made.
Right.
Maybe not sections of the game. Maybe that's a bit too grandiose, but certainly a bunch of quest lines.
Well, it will be really interesting to see just how much of that is real when you actually do play it through on a positive playthrough. Yeah. Because sometimes these games historically have been pretty good at leading you to believe that you're going to have vastly differing consequences.
Yeah.
Just in recent memory, I, for instance, there were several points when we were discussing Mass Effect in Completionist Corner, where I was convinced that you were going to have a very different outcome to me in certain situations. And when you didn't, it was I get that Mass Effect is very much, it's all flavour of your character and stuff like that. But I would have hoped for a little bit more difference between the two campaigns. With this, I'm hearing really positive things about the way that works. I just really hope that you're able to actually confirm it to me as someone that I know when you play your good guy campaign that it really is different.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about how the game goes or ends, but as you may know, I check the achievements before every single playthrough to see if there's stuff I can do really easily.
Yeah.
And there's at least 3 endings.
Okay, yeah, very good.
From what I can tell, at least. So there's all sorts of things. And the way this game's going, I can believe that they really have thought through consequences for any sort of little action you do. So I'm going to stay positive about it because I'm really having a good time. And I'm just hopeful that it's the case, like you said.
Yeah, it's what I'm hearing from the internet. I just want to hear it from you.
Exactly. I trust the studio to come through with that.
Yeah.
But yes, so as a result of basically just retreading old ground, I have got a little bit further, but not so much further that there's anything of note that's happening. The only thing I will say is that last week I incorrectly stated that I thought I was nearly at the end of Act 1. Turns out I was like grossly incorrect on that. There's a whole other area that I discovered that I didn't find before, like a whole like 10 to 15 hour area that I had discovered before. And the place where I thought I would be leaving Act 1 to go to Act 2, because you get the pop-up message when you go through that says make sure you tie any loose ends because you're progressing your story here. I went through there and it hasn't actually progressed into Act 2 yet. It's still Act 1. So
okay, you got plenty to do then.
And I'm about 28, 29 maybe hours in total.
In total, in terms of this run?
In this run, yeah. Oh god, so much more overall because I've started again.
And you've got to bear in mind as well the fact that you're familiar with the game now.
I was literally about to say the exact same thing, because I've done everything before and I was basically playing the same character, just a different class. You can probably add an extra 10 hours on top for what the true content is, because I was skipping a lot of cutscenes and stuff. So yeah, not too much to update on, as I say, but I'm still really enjoying it, and I'll probably be playing this one for a few weeks, so apologies if listeners get bored of hearing about it.
Well, I mean, last week you said this one might even tide you over until the new year, so who knows? I think that could still stand true.
Yeah, I do too, although I will say there's still a little voice in the back of my head that's like, yo dude, do you want to do Lies of P again? And then they've confirmed DLC's coming as well, which is really cool. So
that's cool.
So that might, genuinely, that might be okay, I'm going to put Baldur's Gate down and go back to Lies of P. But I wouldn't have thought DLC would come out this year. But other than that, man, I haven't really played a whole lot this week because I've not been 100%. I've had some sinus problems at the start of the week, which has impacted my game time, unfortunately. So with that, I think we come to the end of the catch-up, and I think it's about time we talk about some gaming news. So with our first news story this week, we have an update on a previously announced Sega Super game.
We're back with the Super games, are we?
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's not the Super moniker for the graphics cards this time, it's a Super game.
Okay.
Whatever the hell that is. So for those that may not be aware, Sega, famous for being the brains behind Sonic the Hedgehog and the Persona franchise, amongst other things, first announced this concept back in 2021 with basically no details regarding the scope of the game, just a promise that it'll be super.
Don't worry, guys, we've got this. We're going to make a super game, and you're all going to be totally stoked for it. Trust me.
And it's going to be the best thing ever.
The best super thing ever.
I'm super cereal.
So, as reported by Video Games Chronicle, one of Sega's COOs, Shuji Utsumi, provided a small update on the status of its super game as part of an annual report. Utsumi reaffirmed that the project is going smoothly and is still aiming for 2026 as it enters production. Utsumi added that the game will seek to involve the entire gaming ecosystem, including players, streamers, and viewers.
Is this going to be like a metaverse type bullshit? It sounds like a metaverse type bullshit game.
It sounds like something like that. The only thing that comes to mind that sort of my brain can remotely compare it to is, you know how Fortnite does things where it has music concerts in game?
Yeah.
And then you have players that are also viewers that interact. Is it something like that, but just on steroids? It's really bizarre, this.
I guess so. And who's to say it's even on steroids? This might just be a straight copy and paste jobby,
Maybe, yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows?
This is Sega we're talking about here.
Exactly. And sort of on that note, despite providing this update, it is still unclear exactly what this game will look like, as we've just sort of described there. It's very odd. The Super Game moniker perhaps put some pressure on this to be a game like no other. And back in 2021, when this was first announced, a figure of $800 million was being touted as a potential budget.
Damn.
Which, for me at least, puts yet more pressure on Sega to knock this one out the park, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the more money you put behind it, the more pressure there is.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, 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 very high risk, this sort of putting this much pressure on yourself, for me.
Agreed, yeah, absolutely.
So, fans who are excited to know what this game will look like may unfortunately have to wait until 2025 before a concrete update is in place, because as mentioned earlier, it's on course for a 2026 release, if you believe that. I, for one, would like to know which franchises will be involved. You'd think Sonic would be involved, but they could just as easily make a brand new franchise entirely. What do you think, Will? Do you think they're going to use the golden oldies or come up with something brand new?
I think that based on what you've described there, I imagine that they probably will be using a lot of their established IPs. I mean, let's not forget they do have Bayonetta.
Miss me, baby.
As well. So there's quite an opportunity there. I mean, Sega do have quite an established roster of characters that they would be able to bring into their games. I imagine that they'll probably be riding on a lot of nostalgia. I mean, who knows? God knows. We might have like the Golden Axe cast coming back. Axel from Streets of Rage and Blaze and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. It could be anything like that. They do have a lot of titles under their belt that they could dig up from the old days, and it doesn't really seem in keeping with Sega to sort of churn out a whole new franchise of characters to get behind this project. Even with a budget of 800 million, it would be a much safer bet to rely on established things that you've got, and I don't think that Sega would really be looking to do much beyond that. Who knows? Yeah,
it's a really interesting one. Listeners, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. What do you think this motherfucker's going to be? Is it just going to be another Pal World pipe dream? Although I think that's actually going to happen now.
Yeah. It's end of this year, I believe, actually. Either end
start
of
of 24, yeah.
Start
January
of 24,
24.
is it? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Or is this just going to be an absolute load of nonsense, a sort of overpromised, under-delivered type job? Let us know what you think. With our second news story this week, is there potentially more than one Silent Hill remake in the works? So as we have reported previously, roughly a year ago now, Konami announced the PS5 exclusive Silent Hill 2 remake being developed by Bloober Team, much to Will's excitement. Well, since then, we have heard very little about the project, something I believe Will may have called out in a previous episode, certainly off-pod.
Yeah, give me some more tangible news, guys. I want to see some more footage. Although, to be fair, I have seen a little bit more footage, but it's not enough. It's not enough. It's never enough.
Exactly. Well, potentially good news, Will. Not necessarily an update on Silent Hill 2 itself, but according to this article from The Gamer, multiple remakes, plural, were referenced during Konami's recent earnings call. So as reported by VGC, Konami stated that we are working diligently on Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which faithfully recreates the story, characters and game design of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, one of the most beloved entries in the Metal Gear series, and updates its graphical style to modern graphics for the current generation, as well as remakes and completely new entries in the Silent Hill series, which gained popularity as a psychological horror game. So could this mean a remake of the entire trilogy on current gen hardware to go alongside these new entries in the series, do you think? Or do you think it's just a phrasing that people are putting too much stock into, just from an earnings
Like
call?
a slip of the tongue type situation.
Well, maybe not slip of the tongue, but just like, he might be saying remakes in a more general sense rather than Silent Hill remakes specifically, sort of thing.
Yeah, it could be that. I'm kind of willing to believe either. The fact that they chose Silent Hill 2 as a starting point seemed a little odd to me if they were considering doing a kind of Resident Evil style revisit of the whole series in the way that they have done with that franchise. Although I do understand why Silent Hill 2 would be kind of the springboard. I think it was the more popular of the games in terms of the way that it was received and just overall popularity as well. So it makes sense from that perspective to start with Silent Hill 2. But in my mind, if they were trying to do a series of remakes of the old games, then it would be most sensible to me to do Silent Hill 1 first. There's a lot of iconic imagery and stuff like that in there. And I think that that's what they should have done if that was their original intention. It will seem really incongruent to do Silent Hill 2 and then Silent Hill 3 and then we'll get around to Silent Hill 1 and then we'll maybe do Silent Hill 4.
Sounds like the Borderlands approach.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So, I mean, we have been aware for some time. We covered this back on the podcast. There is ongoing Silent Hill projects aside from the Silent Hill 2 remake. There's Silent Hill Ascension, Silent Hill F. So still waiting for more news on those. I've been following along and I've seen a bit more footage, more kind of teaser footage than anything gameplay related. So I'm wondering whether there's been some sort of confusion here between the ongoing Silent Hill project and the Silent Hill remake and whether they've kind of been lumped into one. If you know what I mean, that he's saying remakes in the plural, but in a weird, indirect way, he was actually encompassing Silent Hill F and Silent Hill Ascension and that sort of stuff in those, even though they're not remakes.
But he does say, like, specifically, and completely new entries.
It's the
so it's
distinction
remakes
there, which
and completely new entries. Yeah so that's why I'm not sure with this.
I mean, I'm hopeful. I will say that.
Yeah. I mean, how many games are there in total? Is it 4?
So there's 4 mainline numbered titles. There's plenty of ones after that. So there's like Silent Hill Downpour. There was, I think, Silent Hill something Rain as well. I think there was like heavy Silent Hill something Rain. No, that was Downpour. Silent Hill Downpour.
Similar to Downpour, yeah, I was going to say.
And Silent Hill Homecoming. That was the other one that I was thinking of.
So if they've started with 2 then, could it be possible that they're doing 2 and then maybe those 2?
Well, they would have to 2 and then Silent Hill 3 and Silent Hill 4.
No, I meant, well, that or 2 and then Downpour and whatever.
Downcoming and Homepour.
Yeah, exactly, those ones. Like, could it be something like that? Because Silent Hill 2, as you say, is sort of probably universally regarded as the best one, if you like, of the mainline games at least.
I think so, yeah. Silent Hill 2 and 3, I think, are combined known for the being the best of the titles, because I think that some mechanics and things let Silent Hill 1 down, even though I still love that game and I find it really iconic. I can admit fault in bits in that title. I mean, I can admit plenty of fault in Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 as well. The combat systems were very weird for horror games. But they are what they are. I'll be interested to see how that gets handled in the remake as well.
And for that very reason, it could be that they're just doing 2 because it's universally regarded as the best, and then they might do Pour Down and Coming Home, like further down the line. Because I mean, I don't know how well they were received, but maybe it's just one mainline game, remakes of the 2 sort of standalone ones.
Let's just say Homecoming should have been known as Downcoming. It should have been Silent Hill Downcoming,
right,
I think. They've got like big generic Xbox buttons flashing on the screen as you try and open doors and things like that. It like lacks any of the subtlety that Silent Hill was known to up to that point.
Oh, so maybe they won't be remaking that one then. Maybe not.
It's a weird one where, on one hand, those ones are the ones that need a remake the least. They also need a remake the most to kind of get them back on the level of quality that 1 to 3/4 were. I personally, I really enjoyed 4, although I know a lot of people weren't so hot on that one. But Silent Hill 1 to 4 for me were really solid titles, and I would love to see them all remade. Just a very weird decision to start with 2, if there is any intention to go ahead and carry that through.
Yeah, but as you say, it may be happening. Remakes were mentioned. Could just be nonsense, but could be a sign of things to come. So with our final news story this week, HBO's The Last of Us Season 2 premiere date has been revealed. So HBO's The Last of Us arrived on our screens earlier this year and broke records across the board, with the Season 1 premiere being HBO's second largest debut since 2010. Naturally, fans of the Naughty Dog franchise are keen to know when the next season will begin, given HBO revealed there would be a second season roughly 3 weeks after the Season 1 premiere.
Due to the massive success at the time of Season 1, it seemed like for a short while everyone was talking about it. Even we were talking about it, and I still haven't watched it, but we did talk about it.
Yeah, me neither. But apparently it's very good, and Pedro Pascal's as a dude, so respect.
He's a daddy.
But daddy is a state of mind, you know what I'm saying? I'm your daddy.
Well, according to a new report from Deadline, HBO head honcho Casey Bloys reportedly told press at a New York news event that Season 2 will head into production in 2024 with the aim of being a 2025 premiere. Now, this was all Bloys said at this event, but it tracks with a comment from series co-creator and executive producer Craig Mazin, who said earlier this summer that the team had already managed to get some work done, even stating that the first episode was already written.
Okay, cool.
Now, the first season of The Last of Us TV show covered the events of the first game, so it stands to reason that the second series will likely cover the events of the second game. So a speculative question from me as a follow-up to this. Do we think that this may mean a potential third game could be set to release in 2025 as well? Now, I know a third game hasn't been officially confirmed or anything like that, but there's potentially more story to be told, and they would need to release a third game in advance of a potential third season of the TV show, particularly if Season 2 is as hot as Season 1 was. So, I know it's very massive speculation and possibly not even likely going to happen, but what do you think? I think that could be a thing.
I think that it's very possible that we'll see a Last of Us 3. I think fans are really keen to see a continuation of the story, whether that be a continuation of Ellie's story, Abby's story, a combination of the two. I think a lot of people really would like to see a happy ending for Ellie, and sort of mild spoilers, and if you've kind of been following the theme of Last of Us, you're probably aware at this point that happy endings don't really come so easy in this franchise. What I will say is that there was something like a 7-year gap between Last of Us 1 and Last of Us 2, and I imagine that we're probably likely to see a more similar gap. I think Last of Us 1 was 2013 with the remastered in 2014, with Last of Us 2 releasing in 2020. So off top, I would kind of imagine it would be perhaps a couple years later. But I think that we probably will be hearing some Last of Us news, or at least hopefully, because it's been a while since we've heard anything about Last of Us Factions, other than the fact that it's currently in developmental hell. Last of Us Factions 2 is the thing that we've all been waiting for, follow up to the original Last of Us multiplayer mode that came packaged with the original Last of Us and the remastered edition. A lot of people have been really keen to see a follow up to that. It's been rumoured that it's on its way, but news has been very patchy, so people are starting to wonder now what's going on, and all signs point to the fact that it's currently on ice under a load of technical difficulties.
But you don't think that there's a chance of a third mainline series game in the next couple of years?
Not that soon, no. I think a bit longer than that, I would say, for this one. Yeah, I think 2025. If you'd have said 2024, it'd have been no way. I'm thinking we might see a trailer in like kind of late 2024 / mid to early 2025. I'm thinking more like early 2026 is probably a bit more reasonable there.
Oh, fair. So it'll be competing with the Sega Super game.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, God. Well, maybe they'll decide to push it back a little bit then when you're competing with the big guns like that.
Oh, you don't want to push it back. You want to release before the Super game, because the Super game's going to change everything. Yeah. It's going to be the best. Like, did you not hear it? It's going to be the best.
That's true. It will revolutionise gaming. Absolutely.
You're going to want to play it, so there's no point having another game after that.
It is the be-all and end-all of gaming.
Exactly. So by that logic, I've talked myself into it. I think Last of Us Part 3 is going to come out in 2025. So it can avoid the Super game and actually have a good release and make some money for Naughty Dog.
I'd be very pleased to see a 2025 release. I'm just doubtful of it happening given the amount of effort that I think goes into crafting these stories.
Yeah.
For me, that's kind of the main reason why I would think that they would make us wait a little longer.
Yeah, unless HBO get impatient. They're like, make us a new game so we can make a new series.
You do get into that sort of territory when you've got multiple things going in different formats, as you kind of tend to want to tie everything together and release at the same time to maximize kind of reach on all these products and get it on everyone's talking list. You know, I think it would be a shame to do that with this series. They're really well crafted video games, and from what I've heard, the TV series follows suit as well. I would hope that they kind of remain separate and distinct whilst also being really good adaptations. Yeah. It would be really weird if we ended up in this kind of George R.R. Martin Game of Thrones type situation where they're like, come on guys, we're going to just bring out another video game because like we're 4 seasons ahead now, we're writing your shit for you. This is kind of gone full circle now. They're kind of, no longer relying on the video games and generating their own thing. And I think I wouldn't like a situation like that to arise either. So I think that they just need to wait. They just need to wait patiently for the next installment, I think. If they're going to churn out the TV series as fast as this. Although I imagine with a lot of the story set all in place, it's a lot easier to turn around seasons of a TV series when you've got a lot of the stuff written ahead and in advance of you. And in a lot of cases, you're doing shot-for-shot recreations of events that have happened in the video game.
Yeah.
Probably takes some of the edge off at least.
Well, it's a speculative take, and, I think you're probably right. I think they'd be silly to rush the game out if it's even in the works, just to meet the demands of a TV series. But stranger things have happened, and if it does come to pass, just remember, you heard it here first. So with that, we come to the end of the news for this week. So I think it's about time we moved on to the...
A Games Challenge!
So this week it was my challenge. Will had set me the task of beating one of the special Halloween Call of Duty events, which is called The Haunting, go into their DMZ mode and beat one of the special Halloween bosses solo, or beat 3 of the Halloween bosses with friends.
That is correct. How did you get on, buddy?
So as I mentioned at the end of my catch-up there, I've not really been able to do too much gaming this week as a result of basically not being able to look at a screen for too long.
Oh gosh, yeah.
At any point for the whole week.
It's going to be a bit of a hindrance.
A little bit.
You kind of need to do that to play games.
Yeah, you kind of need to be able to see properly and be able to focus. And these were all things that were really hard for me to do at the start of the week.
Looking at a screen for more than a couple minutes or so.
Yeah, exactly. So, you need these things. So as a result, I'm actually going to go slightly against the way that I normally do these. I like to normally leave in suspense about how I've done and then build up a story and talk about it. But I'm actually going to come straight out and say I didn't complete the challenge this week.
Oh. bummer.
It is a bit of a bummer. But I did manage to get some attempts in, so there's
Okay.
a little bit I can talk about. But
Do tell.
yeah, it was. I didn't get a lot done.
Oh, right, okay.
But you know, so to put that statement into context, I never made it to a boss.
Oh, right, okay.
I never even found a quest trigger like an Altar of Lilith or any sort of thing. I really didn't get very far at all.
Oh, they're all on your map, just marked on your map.
Yeah, but I never got to one. I
Yeah.
kept on getting killed.
Oh, shit, okay, damn.
Yeah, so I believe it was mostly by humans, but I am aware that there's a mixture of bots and humans in DMZ.
And those bots do have very good aim, I will say that.
Oh, fair. So maybe I'm more than happy to believe it was bots.
Unless you
every
saw a
time,
player
but-
name pop up on your screen, it was bots.
Oh, so I think I did a couple of times,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not every time. So it must have been bots or some of it. Now, part of the reason for this is that I at no point had a weapon. Like, not at a single point did I have a weapon. I started with no equipment. I might have had a flash and a grenade or something, but no guns. I was fists only. And I was using the Al Mazrah map. I did have an option of another 3, but my strategy was I wanted to go for the Butcher.
Al Mazrah's the right map. It's the only map with the bosses on it as well.
Oh, is it? Okay, that's
Yeah,
good. Because
yeah.
I did notice it was all set in nighttime, and
Yes,
there was sort
spooky.
of... I don't know if they were zombies, but there was sort of like things that were walking, shambling like zombies. It was probably the troops. And it was kind of cool. Nice little... I didn't see any of the ghostly apparitions that you mentioned, which was
no?
a shame. But it was quite a cool atmosphere, I'll give it that. But yeah, I never had a weapon. And the one time I did manage to kill someone with my fists, there was a soldier sort of standing on a hill, was a bot, standing on a hill. And I snuck round behind him, sort of 4-banged him. Maybe 4 or 5 shots, I think it was. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
And I was just about, he looked like he had a nice assault rifle that fell on the floor. I was about to pick it up, and seemingly out of nowhere, 4 or 5 other troops came and just gunned me down.
Right, yeah. I've just got a couple questions there. It probably doesn't help you with this knowledge now, but one of the mechanics is that you have an insured gun, and that gun you can pick any weapon from your current armory, and that includes just the guns default in the game. So you would have had an opportunity to have had a weapon at this point in one of your insured slots.
I clicked on all of the item where it looked like I could equip stuff, and there was no option to equip a gun at any point.
So there is definitely a way. I don't know what there is. Absolutely,
I'm sure there
somewhere.
is. I'm sure there is.
To
but
use a gun. It wasn't available to you.
I looked at the logical places I thought it would be, and I
Yeah.
couldn't equip any equipment. It just said you've got nothing available. Because there was contraband slots, but they were all empty, obviously, because I haven't collected anything.
That's a separate section. Yeah.
And then I was clicking where it would be equipped, and there was no option to add anything. So unless I was being stupid, which is perfectly possible, my concentration levels were quite down, to be perfectly honest with you.
I mean, the menuing in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is notoriously bad, so I wouldn't put it past that you just didn't figure out how to do it.
Yeah, we'll come to that. That's coming. But yeah, and that was kind of, honestly, probably one of my best attempts, because I sort of had survived for a few minutes. I found this guy, he seemed really isolated. I got him, was about to pick up the gun, and then just got murked, and it was a little disheartening, but it is what it is. That's one of those things. And the saddest thing for me about this was that as a result, putting the challenge to one side, because obviously I do care about that. I don't like to give up a point so easily. But the one thing I was really looking forward to, you spoke so highly of this DMZ mode over the year.
Yeah.
And I really didn't get a feel for it, because I just wasn't alive for very long at any point. I never extracted anything. I didn't get to play with any of the juggernauts or anything like that. It just didn't happen for me.
That's a shame, man.
And that was a real shame. Although from my limited time on Al Mazrah as a map, it did look like a Verdansk clone. It didn't look like it had too much originality in it.
No, there is a lot of similarities. It's like a deserty Verdansk in a lot of places. The other maps are much more distinct. The one in Holland and the one set in a small Japanese island.
I was about to say, is it called like
distinct.
Akino Island or something
Ashika,
like that?
yeah.
Ashika, that one, the picture looked really fun.
Yeah.
Like on the map selection. And the other thing I will say about Al Mazrah, because that sounds like I am criticising it, but I will give it some credit because it was dark. I might not have seen some of the finer details that the map normally has, but it did just look like a Verdansk clone to me.
It's a lot more dense and it's a lot larger and it has a lot more features in it than Verdansk, but I will give it to you that there are some areas that are clearly modelled to resemble Verdansk as well.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of specifically is It was next to the airport.
The observation laboratory, maybe. Oh no, that's not the.
No,
airport.
it was literally.
Oh, the
called
airport is very similar. Yeah, absolutely.
And
the
I was just like,
airport is.
this is the airport in Verdansk, like literally.
There's even a bit of a castle rip-off as well. Yeah.
I was there.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. They're quite distinct close up when you learn the maps, is what I will say.
Yeah.
But on first glance, absolutely, yeah. I think that was probably intentional in a way. It was so that the people coming from Warzone 1 were like, oh, look, we can go back to castle, kinda.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Which I can understand and respect, but coming off the back of a lot of Call of Duty fatigue as a result of Warzone 1, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's really noticeable, goddamn. But yeah, in terms of actual challengey stuff, that's kind of really all I've got. But I do have some observations about the game, which do take with a pinch of salt because it's a small sample size. I probably got 5, maybe 6 runs total this week.
Oh, right.
It really was like I really didn't get much time in at all. So, but there are still a lot of issues that Call of Duty Warzone, at least, I can't speak to the campaigns because I've not played them, that it had loads of issues that seem to still be present, which is really frustrating, including but not limited to the update system. It makes you download a big update before you start the game up. You start the game, go through about 2 or 3 menus, it will say updating, and then kick you out the game.
It says update requires restart. Just
exactly,
as you start the campaign, yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, have they not gotten rid of this bullshit? Like,
it's still present in Modern Warfare 3, buddy. I promise you, there are plenty of people out there that I've seen trying to get into the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, and they've had to like start and restart their game at least 2 or 3 times to get it working. It was the exact same experience I had with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on launch as well.
Yeah, yeah. But it was just like, god damn, really? You haven't fixed that shit? Like, that is so annoying.
Do you know, I don't think they can. I think it's something to do with the way that they store data, whether they store it locally or server side. Battlefield also has that same issue, except that on consoles it's just more disguised because it will just say like basically the same thing, UI update requires a restart, but then it doesn't quite make you quit the game and then restart the game on the consoles. But it has the same issues there as well. So I think it is something to do with a technical limitation that they haven't quite gotten over yet.
Maybe that Microsoft money will fix that now.
Maybe.
But yeah, and you know, again, this is me being probably quite pedantic, but that was just really irritating.
It is. There's no doubts about that. It is.
Yeah, and likewise, please stop putting these unskippable cutscenes at the start of the game. Come on, Activision, please stop doing this. I don't give a shit.
The fact
about
that they
characters
are
that I don't know.
Yeah.
Like just give me the option to skip it, please. Again, that's not major. That's just irritating, right? But then we get to what I think is really the most egregious thing, given how much development time the Warzone sort of style has had. You know, it first came out in 2020, right? Like during lockdown.
At least Warzone's iteration of...
At least Warzone, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Again, I can only speak to the Warzones and that sort of style of it because I haven't got the full game. But you go through all this bullshit menuing that you mentioned earlier that is, you know, fairly obtuse at the best of times. And then you finally get to where you're happy, you start your game up, and it is such a vast, like, it's so inconsistent with how long it takes to do anything, right? But what I was noticing is in the 5 or 6 times I joined a game, it took anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes to do anything. And I do understand that, you know, it has to search for games and you have to get an empty slot and then you have to get in and all that. But 3 minutes...
Yeah, I've never quite had such long times as that. I'm wondering whether there might have been some sort of Modern Warfare 3 promo thing going on that is currently kind of drawing the fan base away to that title, because I think that one's it feels like that one's imminently coming out, and they've absolutely had a lot of open betas and stuff like that going on as well. Maybe that was taking away some of the traffic? I don't know. 3 minutes seems like a long time. But I will say as well that, I mean, if you're having a tough time in these DMZs and you're dying within a handful of minutes each time, yeah, that is going to be annoying because you are going to spend roughly 50% of your game time, or 25% of your game time waiting for a game to load. Yeah. DMZ is amazingly fun if you last 15 minutes in a round, achieve a bunch of stuff, extract and go back in. You can deal with that like 1.5 2 minute wait time sometimes. Yeah,
but that's the other thing as well. I will say, as a result of not really being able to focus too much this week, I didn't even bother asking anyone if they wanted to play with me.
Right.
Because it would have been like, okay, guys, sorry, I've got to stop for like a minute. Okay, guys, sorry, I've got to stop again. I'm going to be a complete liability. Had I gone in with a squad, I would have had a lot more patience for that because you can be talking in the lobby before in between and it's not quite as noticeable. But when you're sitting in front of your screen, like, just waiting.
It's giving me Pokemon Arceus vibes with me just loading in and out of Jubilife, like in
exactly. No,
silence.
dude, karma is nothing but a fair mistress. Like, I definitely got some karma in the short time that I tried to do this, but I didn't account for the Call of Duty 3 thing, Modern Warfare 3 thing. That's actually a really good shout. That could be exactly why that was.
That's purely speculative on my part. I don't know that anything's currently going on.
Well, when I turned my Xbox on the other day, before it even started, I got this off advert for it, so it must be doing something.
Oh my god, Xbox is working adverts into the menus that badly now, are they?
Yeah, now that they've got Activision, they can do
it. They don't give a now. They got that Activision money. They'll do what the they want.
Yeah, so it was like, oh yeah, we've got Call of Duty. We're just going to shove that in your face.
What are you going to do? We've got Call of Duty.
I just want to like put some YouTube on, mate. Like, just get it out of my face. But yes, okay, I'm actually gonna like sort of not backpedal on that criticism, but I do understand that is actually potential.
I don't think there's anything to backpedal on there, man. I think it's a valid criticism, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it's a free-to-play game, and it's about your experience that you're talking about. It's not really a criticism of the game. You're saying that it was a ball ache having to wait 2 to 3 minutes each time. Like,
yeah, it was. Yeah. And actually, there's one thing that you've mentioned about the new sort of version of Call of Duty that I disagree with the small sample size I've had. I still think the traversal in it's crap.
But did you think it was better?
No, but I haven't played Call of Duty in so long that I can't do a proper like for like comparison.
I will say traversal is 100% better. Like the fact that you can grab a ledge from any height now and stuff like that. There is absolutely stuff in there that's better.
I do believe you because of such a small sample size, but in the moment where I mentioned earlier where I killed a soldier on a hill and then 4 or 5 of his mates turned up, I tried to climb up the hill to get behind him a good 2 or 3 times without it working properly. It still felt like the old Call of Duty in that regard.
Yeah, you are still going to have ledges like that make it difficult to climb up. Yeah. It's not as bad as the old Warzone by a stretch, but annoyingly, there are still things like hills and steep inclines like that, whereas Battlefield will have let you just kind of continuously mantle your way up. Call of Duty doesn't allow for that, unfortunately.
No, exactly. And I feel like in something like Apex, that would just be no problem.
Yeah, you just fucking, yeah. I mean, but Apex has some like the best competitive multiplayer movement out there, really.
Exactly,
Yeah, but still, valid.
So there was that. And then the final sort of thing that I think is a little bit unacceptable for a game that's been around so long still is there was still loads of visual glitches and stuff on the menus and things like that. Like,
oh, did you notice that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's something that I actually thought they'd cleaned up within the last couple times that I played it, to be honest.
Now, I will say it's a lot better than when I played Warzone previously, and it doesn't happen in-game anymore from what I saw, which is a huge thing. Like, the amount of times I saw people get stuck in walls in fucking Warzone.
Oh, right.
Like, whilst they're playing. Like, not good. But I did still get the odd disappearing head on the menu screen. I did still get the odd, like, thing that looked slightly out of place. I never had a weapon, so I didn't see anything like holding the wrong weapon, which I'd seen before. But, it wasn't as bad as it has been. It wasn't consistently shit. It's still there, though, and that was a bit of a surprise to me.
Again, the only thing I can really compare those to is other games within that sort of realm, like Battlefield, and weirdly, it's still present in those as well.
Yeah.
It just seems like I think it has to be something with the way that the data loads and the way that they store the data, whether it's server-side or locally, where it just fails to load in, because I've got some pretty fantastic screenshots of early days Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on the Warzone, where I was having those Assassin's Creed style glitches where eyeballs would be spawning, but no.
I remember commenting on one on your Steam.
Yeah. Very weird.
Yeah, so as I said, it's little things like that. It is me being nitpicky because these are the reasons why I stopped playing Call of Duty to begin with. So it was disappointing to see they're still there. But that's really all I can talk about this week. I would love to have come in with at least more about DMZ and sort of my experiences with that mode, but it simply hasn't been feasible this week, which is very unfortunate.
And I assume you've immediately uninstalled this, given the file size.
No, it's still installed.
Oh, okay.
Fucking 90 gig, and I don't even have the game though. Like, god damn.
Honestly, 90 gig feels small, considering.
Well, Baldur's Gate's 150, so yeah.
Well, maybe you'll grace and keep it on the PC for a couple weeks, and maybe we can jump into a DMZ game at some point just so you can get a flavour for it. I won't necessarily hold you to that, but maybe you'd fancy it. I don't know.
I'm going to leave it on for a little bit because I've got no other games coming for the foreseeable future and I've got enough room for it. But it will be the first thing to go if I need space.
Yeah, of course.
Like, that's what I will say. But no, that's a good idea because I do want to at least be able to talk to you about the DMZ because I know that you're quite passionate about it, and that's my biggest disappointment, let alone the fact that I'm still 4-3 behind, giving you a double advantage this week.
Well, that double advantage is yet to be decided, James, because to have that double advantage, I would need to have successfully completed the challenge you're about to set me.
Yes, but you have the option for it, and I don't like that as a competitor.
It's a possibility, if I really knuckle down.
Well, would you like to know what your challenge is for this week?
I'm gagging for it, man. Lay it on me.
Well, Will, your challenge this week is a follow-up.
A follow-up? Oh my god, okay.
A follow-up. So,
what's this about?
Will, I know that you know. Listeners, you may remember a few weeks ago now, I set Will the task of finishing 6 Monster Hunter Rise arena quests, getting 3 S ranks in the process. And you may also remember that Will had an absolute arse of a time because I didn't appreciate how much extra he'd have to do around it.
I did.
He did, but he did manage to do it.
I did, through a lot of perseverance. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh god, this is like PTSD mode. What's going to happen?
Well, Will, your challenge this week is to get an S rank on the other 3.
Ah, okay. Very good.
Gone for a 2-parter, baby.
Nice. I like this challenge. I have those missions unlocked. I just need to focus my goddamn self.
But I am aware from what you said on the last episode where you covered it that the one in particular with 3 that you have to beat in a certain time is going to be an absolute dick to fucking finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting an S rank on these challenges, these were the hard ones that I was putting behind. I'm sure it's very doable, but within the allotted time that I have, that's going to be the challenge, I think, is that this is one where I'm going to need some time to get these perfect, and these are the most challenging ones. But then again, you never know. Yeah, I think there's methods. There's methods I can employ. I can work my way on YouTube and figure out the best way to do this. I'm ready for it, man.
And I think for at least one of them, you have actually already done some research. Because I feel like you were thinking about doing that one, but then didn't do it in the end because you got that perfect gun run, which I would love to see, actually.
I wish I would have been able to record it, honestly. Yeah.
But I know you enjoyed it last time, and this time you can hopefully enjoy it more because you haven't got to deal with bullshit of a challenge that shouldn't be there because it was too much work. So have at it, man. Look forward to hearing how you get on. And see if you can open up that 2-point lead.
I'll certainly do my best.
So with that, we come to the end of the show. If you've enjoyed what you've listened to, you can, as always, find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere else you get your podcasts by searching for Total Pod Mode.
We also post regular video content of our playthroughs, stream highlights, as well as the podcast on our YouTube channel, Total Pod Mode.
You can also find us on X by searching for @TotalPodMode, all one word.
Or you can find me at WhoDaFunk on X, and I'm also on Twitch under twitch.tv/WhoDaFunk.
And you can find me on X @Mr. Bames, and I'm also on Twitch under twitch.tv/MrBames_TPM. And one final humble request to our listeners, please do check us out on those social media platforms. Please do drop us a like, a comment, a 5-star rating. We really appreciate it, and it's the best way to help the channel grow.
Absolutely, guys. Please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, and on that note, we finish the show for this week. Take care now. Goodbye.
Bye-bye now.